On this Thursday night, the plastics we throw away, the places we buy our beer, and our online privacy. The Canadian government is talking tough about getting rid of plastics from the ocean. But when will talk turn to action?
Also tonight, MPs grill Facebook execs about the fate of your private messages.
And the Supreme Court takes on a national grievance. Why it's still okay for provinces to tell you where you can pick up your beer. We're on the case. This is The National.
It's one of the planet's greatest environmental challenges, something Canada's Prime Minister says is a top priority for his government. Talking about plastic waste in our oceans. And today, Justin Trudeau had a chance to spell out what Canada will do. And the world was watching. Commonwealth leaders gathered in London for their biannual summit. And British Prime Minister Theresa May said her country plans to ban outright some of the most common plastic pollutants. Then she challenged the other 52 member nations to follow her lead. So, will Canada sign on?
I know that there'll be a lot of interest in Prime Minister May's proposal, and I look forward to that discussion at that time.
And that time, evidently, isn't now. It's in June, when Canada hosts the G7. Then we'll see if there's a Canadian commitment to follow in Britain's footsteps. But the scale of the ocean pollution is truly staggering. More than 5 trillion pieces of plastic debris. And as Evan Dyer shows us, that has life and death consequences.
In Spain today, scientists confirmed that this young sperm whale died because 25 kilos of plastic waste in its stomach and intestines meant it could no longer digest food. And on Midway Island in the middle of the Pacific, and thousands of miles from any city, marine birds are dying the same way. Today in Britain, the government of Theresa May announced that it will ban some single-use plastics like straws, coffee stirrers and Q-tips by the end of the year.
And improve the health of our oceans, creating a more sustainable Commonwealth.
A torrent of plastic garbage is pouring into the oceans from rivers around the world. In Indonesia today, the army was called in to clear a huge raft of plastic, blocking a river's path to the sea. Canada's pledged to make the fight against plastic waste the signature issue of its Group of 7 presidency this year.
We have a huge challenge. It's possible by 2050 we will have more plastics in our ocean than fish.
Today, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said he supports Britain's plastics cleanup initiative, an issue he discussed with May yesterday at number 10 Downing Street. But Britain's proposed ban on single-use plastic items goes beyond anything yet announced by the Trudeau government.
Sustainability.
Today, Trudeau was asked twice if he was ready to start banning objects like straws, but didn't answer directly.
We're going to look at a broad range of suggestions, consult a broad range of experts and scientists, and move forward decisively, not just as a single country, although Canada does have the longest coastline in the world, but hopefully as a global community on doing the kinds of things that are going to keep our oceans safe for future generations.
In fact, some developing countries are leaving both Britain and Canada far behind when it comes to fighting plastic waste. 2 countries whose leaders Trudeau met with privately here in London, Kenya and Rwanda, have introduced criminal penalties for using plastic bags, including potential jail time. Evan Dyer, CBC News, London.
As you heard, ocean plastic comes in all sizes. And in some parts of the world, you get scenes like this. This undersea voyage in waste was shot earlier this year by a British diver off the coast of Bali. Loads of plastic waste just floating there, like the jellyfish around it. It's pretty shocking, and not all of it stays at sea. Every year, the nonprofit group Ocean Conservancy holds an international coastal cleanup. Here's just some of the plastic they picked up last year. More than 1.5 million plastic bottles, close to 900,000 plastic bags, and more than 400,000 straws. And that's just a fraction of the estimated 1 billion plastic straws thrown away each and every day around the world. Here's Ron Charles now on the effort to reduce that kind of pollution here.
A plastic straw won't be an automatic feature of drinks at this Toronto restaurant on Saturday. It's joining about 130 other restaurants and bars that will go straw-free or only offer straws on request. It's a one-day grassroots awareness campaign Jillian Lucas and a friend started called The Last Straw.
Wanting us to be a little bit more conscious in the service industry of the plastic that we throw away, the garbage that we produce, and the straw is just so simple that we don't even think about it, but it's just such an easy thing to eliminate 99% of.
Why turn against straws? Here's one reason: the viral video of marine biologists removing a plastic straw from a sea turtle's nostril. Straws make up part of the millions of tons of plastic pollution that endangers aquatic life globally. There are alternatives, straws made of paper or biodegradable fibers. Some Canadian eateries have made the switch, but they can cost more than 3 times as much as plastic. A concern even for restaurants willing to participate in Saturday's campaign.
There's a cost factor. At this point, I think if more people drive the issue, we can bring those prices down.
Vancouver is driving the issue. The city government is discussing how to get businesses to reduce single-use plastic items like straws. But there's a good reason it has not opted for a complete ban. Mary Jo Federley sits on a disability advisory committee at City Hall.
It's kind of a health and a dignity issue. If I go out to a public restaurant and I can't hold a cup and I can't also get the cup to my mouth, the only way I can enjoy a drink of any sort is with a straw.
But for patrons of those 130 restaurants and bars in Toronto on Saturday, the hope is the last straw inspires an end to other throwaway plastic. Ron Charles, CBC News, Toronto.
A big issue, as you can see, with lots of different consequences for what some officials have called a worldwide emergency. It's something CBC News is following closely in our series, Reduce, Reuse, Rethink. And you can add your story ideas. Just head to our Facebook page. Okay, here's what else we're following tonight on The National. CBC News has new information about how far the federal government is willing to go to get the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion built.
Plus, the head of Facebook Canada says, in retrospect, they probably should have notified the 600,000 Canadians whose privacy was compromised in 2016. Then he fled from reporters. Katie Simpson brings us the scene from Ottawa.
But first, one man's plan to free the beer fizzles out at the Supreme Court. The New Brunswick man at the center of that Supreme Court decision today on beer says the ruling won't change his habits.
I'm sure I won't be buying as much beer as I used to, but I might take a couple of cases.
Como had challenged the constitutionality of not being able to buy alcohol in next-door Quebec and bring it home over the provincial border. The court says provinces and territories can restrict it, so long as there is good reason. It says New Brunswick's ability to control liquor supplies within its borders would be undermined if non-corporation liquor could flow freely across borders and out of the garages of bootleggers and home brewers. So what does this all mean for, say, the guy in Ontario who wants to introduce some friends to some great BC wines, or the BC winery that wants to sell online to people in Nova Scotia? Jacqueline Hansen went to find both.
At one of the Quebec liquor stores where Gerard Como stocked up, shoppers were shocked by the ruling.
Our laws, I'm telling you, they make them crazy laws. It's not like it's crossing the border into Cuba or anywhere else.
Across the bridge in New Brunswick, cross-border beer buyers say they won't stop.
I'm still gonna go on the other side and buy some.
I might just well go pick up some beer in Quebec and bring it straight back to New Brunswick.
New Brunswick says limits on alcohol are to protect tax dollars.
That's redistributed in society, in the province of New Brunswick, for education services, health services, infrastructure.
But Canada's economy as a whole could be losing out on billions of dollars, according to this researcher.
We really should think about these policies as inhibiting trade and lowering Canada's productivity and increasing the price of goods and services.
This is Pearl Morissette.
This Toronto wine collector says that for him, it's about access to exclusive artisanal wines from across the country.
It's being served at Michelin star restaurants globally.
Which means
it's the top of the top. If you live out of the province, you can't get it.
And that inability to ship across borders limits business for small wineries, like Crushpad in Summerland, BC. It joined forces with 4 other winemakers as interveners in Como's Supreme Court case, in hopes of being able to sell direct to consumers across Canada.
We can't grow beyond our 15,000 cases unless we can establish new markets.
The owner wants provinces to reconsider their rules.
Think about living in France and living in Bordeaux and trying to order a bottle of champagne from the Champagne region and not being allowed to do that. Now, the French would just not tolerate that on any level. And so as Canadians, for us to have been tolerating this for so long is really rather silly.
The conversation isn't over yet. Provincial and federal governments are working on how the trade of alcohol within Canada can be improved. Those recommendations are due this summer. Jacqueline Hansen, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, virtually every province and territory have strict limits on how much alcohol you can bring across their borders. Most will allow about 70 cans of beer. The limit is much lower in some territories and Atlantic provinces. Exceed the limits, and you could face criminal charges and hefty fines. The exceptions, Alberta and Manitoba, where there are no limits at all. As you saw in Jacqueline's story, the Supreme Court says these barriers are constitutional as long as the goal isn't to restrict trade. And there's no surprise why some provinces are rather delighted with today's decision.
For New Brunswick, being a small province, it's a huge moneymaker. There's no question about that.
Cash-strapped provinces are eager for the tax revenue. NB Liquor added $167 million to the government's bottom line last year.
For us, it's not about money.
In Nunavut, the restrictions are about reducing consumption and saving lives.
Alcohol regulation in Nunavut is not a question of trade. For us, it's a question of protecting public health and safety.
Leaders there say alcohol contributes to the territory's high suicide rate, which is nearly 9 times the national average. Okay, let's move now to the ongoing privacy and security troubles at Facebook. Today, a Canadian Facebook executive was called to account in Ottawa. The former Michael Ignatieff staffer, now heading Facebook Canada's public policy division. Our Katie Simpson kept a close eye on that parliamentary committee today, where Kevin Chan didn't get a much warmer welcome in Ottawa than Mark Zuckerberg did in Washington.
And myself as chair, were disappointed that Mr. Zuckerberg declined our request. And I'd say we don't take that lightly, but we appreciate
Little was friendly when Facebook executives came before Parliament to ask for forgiveness.
What is alleged to have occurred is a huge breach of trust to our users, and for that, we are very sorry.
MPs grilled officials and even suggested Facebook may have broken Canada's privacy laws by failing to protect the private information of Canadian users.
Perhaps you're in compliance with the law now, but it seems pretty clear that you weren't in compliance with the law previously. Is that fair?
As our changes in 2014 reflect, we don't think that's the right way for platform to operate, and it's not the way that platform operates today.
About 622,000 Canadians are among the 87 million Facebook users who had their information shared without consent. The data, which may include private messages, was then allegedly used by Cambridge Analytica to try to influence the U.S. election.
The question before our committee is Facebook needing regulation because you cannot be trusted to do the right thing with the personal information.
Facebook says it is open to regulation and that it has improved its privacy policies, but it's now investigating whether more data breaches have happened in the past.
We don't have firm answers on exactly what the scale of the problem is at this point, but it's something that we do need to undertake and that we're working to do expeditiously.
They are in a situation where they have to rectify this. Never think that Facebook can't go the way of MySpace. If people get enough people get upset about it, it can.
Mr. Chan. After 2 hours of pledging to be more accountable,
Mr. Chan, you talked about build up trust and you're not speaking publicly? Are you serious?
Building trust. You guys are trying to build trust with the public and you're running from reporters. How does that work?
Mr. Chan, is Facebook Canada?
The Canadian executive appeared to have little time for reporter questions. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Ottawa.
Just over a week ago at hearings in Washington, Mark Zuckerberg seemed open to tougher European-style privacy rules, at least in spirit. Now a new EU law is coming into effect, a good time to measure Facebook's commitment. The EU's General Data Protection Regulation kicks in on May 25th with much tighter data privacy controls and much bigger fines for any company that misuses data. Now, if that law were in effect today, it would cover close to 2 billion Facebook users. That's because anyone outside Canada and the U.S. are under terms of service agreed with Facebook's international headquarters, based in Ireland, an EU member for tax purposes. But Facebook now says it wants only European users to be covered by the GDPR, exempting some 1.5 billion users from Africa, Asia, Australia, and Latin America. That move would radically shrink Facebook's exposure to stiff financial penalties that could reach into the billions.
To Saskatchewan now, where the Mounties provided some answers about what happened on that highway 2 weeks ago. But first, we want to tell you about one member of the Humboldt Broncos who is closer to home tonight. Ryan Strashnitsky has been transferred to a hospital in Calgary. That's about a half hour from his home in Airdrie. His family tweeting out the news, expressing their gratitude to the hospital staff in Saskatoon and for the help they received from the outside. Strashnitsky was paralyzed from the chest down in the April 6th collision with a tractor-trailer. The Mounties in Saskatchewan say they still haven't determined whether criminal charges should be laid in that crash. Investigators continue to collect evidence from the scene, from vehicles, and from the witnesses.
Due to its complexity and scope, our Major Crimes Unit is leading this investigation.
Reconstruction experts were back at the scene of the collision today, positioning vehicles to analyze the sight lines and to take more measurements. But they warn they may not have the answers for some time yet.
Complex collision reconstruction investigations take time and are often measured in weeks and months rather than days.
Investigators have established the truck was in the intersection when the collision happened, but they don't know whether it was in motion or had stopped. But RCMP officers have taken what's called engine control modules from both vehicles to California for analysis. They record data leading up to the collision,
including speed and any changes in speed, the RPM of the engines, and the application of brakes.
Investigators have done about 50 interviews with some of the victims, independent witnesses, and the truck driver, who they remain in contact with. They've taken 5,500 photos from the ground and air, and they have the truck driver's logbooks, which they expect will provide some insight into the number of hours that he worked and rested and how often he did brake checks, for example. And one more note on this story tonight. The GoFundMe page that was started in the hours after the crash almost 2 weeks ago has closed, but not before becoming the largest of its kind in Canada, the second biggest anywhere. 142,000 donors gave more than $15 million.
Just incredible. Here's what else we're working on tonight on The National. Canada has a new gold medalist. Weightlifter Christine Girard goes from third to first in the London Olympics after the top two finishers were caught doping. She tells us what it means to be recognized almost 6 years later.
Plus, the Canadian who invented prosthetic limbs that cost about the same as a pizza delivery. You'll meet the young woman honored today by the Queen.
And a committee tasked with figuring out guidelines for service dogs is suddenly disbanded. We'll tell you why a veteran is speaking out.
We've spent 2.5 years in a failed process. The people that this is truly hurting and affecting, the despair and angst is unbelievable.
U.S. President Donald Trump is beefing up his personal legal team, adding former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani and 2 other lawyers to the mix. Giuliani's been a fierce, longtime ally of Trump's, and he's told U.S. media his role will be to negotiate an end to the Russia probe led by special counsel Robert Mueller. One key issue Trump and his team will have to confront, whether to sit down with Mueller for an interview. And we are tracking a new development tonight in the Mueller investigation. Here's a live look at Washington, where just hours ago, the Department of Justice released those controversial James Comey memos to Congress. The memos were written by Comey while he was still director of the FBI. He said he wrote them following conversations with the president, and they're believed to be a big part of Mueller's investigation into whether Trump tried to obstruct the FBI's Russia investigation. Disgraced cyclist Lance Armstrong has agreed to pay a $5 million settlement to the U.S. government. He was being sued for defrauding the U.S. Postal Service, a team sponsor, by taking performance-enhancing drugs and then lying about it. Settling the case means Armstrong will avoid the possibility of paying a much steeper penalty, which could conceivably have been as high as $100 million.
We have heard many of their heart-wrenching stories. Soldiers returning home from war, facing a difficult adjustment to civilian life. For some, service dogs help provide a lifeline, comfort and support in times of stress, depression, and trauma. Yet some of the people who need that help most are not getting it. Veterans with PTSD are accusing Ottawa of failing them. Kayla Hounsell takes us through the details.
Let's go. Time to go. Get dressed. Go workins.
Medra Cousineau says his psychiatric service dog, Ty, wakes him from night terrors and helps steer him out of public situations that might cause anxiety. He's a veteran and lives with PTSD. He's also a member of a committee that's been trying to establish a national standard for service dogs. At least he was, until this week when the group was suddenly disbanded.
The people that this is truly hurting and affecting, the despair and angst is unbelievable. You gonna go for a walk?
Those people are other veterans who Cousineau says often need service dogs just to get through the day.
Let's go load.
But the government won't fund the dogs without a national standard to establish how they're trained.
There are people that are passing off pets as service animals and, all kinds of ugly things.
For 2.5 years, the federally appointed committee has been working to establish guidelines for all service dogs, including guide dogs and those who help with other disabilities. But this week, the department in charge issued a letter obtained by CBC News. It says the work on what has proven to be a complex and demanding project would not continue. The reason? Depends on who you ask.
So we actually believe that we're very, very close to finishing off this project and having a set of national standards for service dogs.
I will speak to the issue directly.
The Minister of Veterans Affairs says the group couldn't reach a consensus.
We realized that this wasn't getting anywhere, not fast enough for this government, so we decided to solely look at psychiatric service dogs, and we will establish a standard for them.
The minister's office says there will be a standard specifically for psychiatric service dogs before the end of the year. Medra Cousineau says that's unacceptable.
Later this year isn't going to cut it. We've spent 2.5 years in a failed process.
Cousineau says veterans need help now, and there's no time to waste. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Eastern Passage, Nova Scotia.
So what's involved in pairing a PTSD service dog with a veteran? There's no hard and fast answer, but according to the Wounded Warriors organization, it costs approximately $15,000 and takes about 2 years to train each dog and its handler.
Still ahead on the National, CBC News learns just how far Justin Trudeau and his government will go to build the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion. So it's the perfect day for At Issue. Andrew, Chantal, and Chris Hall break it all down for us. That's next.
There may well be an opportunity for us to have officials address some of the gaps that we perceive to be in the Ocean Protection Plan. However, we remain committed to ensuring that we're protecting our jurisdiction in this regard.
One of the things that we discussed was the fact that the federal government, along with the government of Alberta, has commenced discussions with Kinder Morgan to establish a financial relationship that will eliminate investor risk.
We will ensure that this pipeline gets built in a way that upholds and protects the interests of Canadians. But this pipeline will get built.
Just a few weeks into this spat, and none of the parties have really budged much. That was John Horgan and Rachel Notley this Sunday after a meeting with the Prime Minister, and then the Prime Minister speaking from London today, all three of them sticking to their guns. And the feds may have just added some more ammunition. The CBC's David Cochrane is reporting tonight that sources are telling him the government is looking at other companies to step in if Kinder Morgan pulls out. Here to step in for some analysis, At Issue. Andrew Coyne is in Toronto. Chantal Hébert is in Montreal, and Chris Hall joins us tonight from the floor of the Liberal National Convention in Halifax, where surely this will be discussed in the hallways. Let's start with you, Chantal. What do you make of this idea that there would be other companies who would pick up the pipeline if Kinder Morgan walks away? Is this just public negotiating?
Well, up to a point, there was some public negotiating on the part of Kinder Morgan. I thought earlier this week when the message was that it seemed like an untenable position to try to get the pipeline done as a private company, full sentence, which to me came across as a call for the federal and Alberta governments to pour more money into it. I think if I were the federal government and I'd committed to possibly buying a pipeline to get it done, I would be looking for partners if the current partner is walking away.
When I asked the Prime Minister that question, Andrew, on the weekend, what does it say about the country if to buy a pipeline? He pulled way away because no one wants to get into a conversation about whether this is, in fact, heading towards a nationalization of a pipeline.
Yeah, they've sort of weakened their own bargaining position by announcing so clearly that they were willing to get into it. I think there's a case for it, but the only case I would make for it is compensation for expropriation. That is to say, Kinder Morgan has made significant investments in this. Is at risk not from the vagaries of fate, but from government action. And you can make a case they should be compensated for that. But they do want to give, I guess they're trying to give themselves some bargaining position now by saying there's these other players out there who we could bring in, who may or may not exist. We'll find out. But they're also saying, at least in your report, that there'd be money for them as well. Mm-hmm. And they don't, I think, have the same case that Kinder Morgan might make of having, significant investments being expropriated.
What do you think that tells us, Chris, about the state of these negotiations? If that's, the two things that we've heard this week, Kinder Morgan saying this may not be tenable and the federal government saying we may have other people ready to go.
Well, first of all, I'm not surprised by Kinder Morgan saying that. The negotiations are just starting, and they obviously want to play their hand as hard and as quickly as they can by saying, look, we're looking for certainty. Whether you can reach an agreement with us or with anyone else that provides that kind of financing background, then maybe we can see our way clear. But really, this is more about the political uncertainty that's been created. To offer up money by the federal government or the Alberta government as well, in some unnamed form, in some unnamed fashion, is really, in my view, a bit strange, given that Kinder Morgan is a profitable company, and all they've ever said is they'd like to clear away the political obstacles. And if money can buy that, great. But I haven't seen any signs yet that John Horgan is prepared to weaken because there's now money on the table for Kinder Morgan. Well, that's a good point because, Chantal, that the summit that happened Sunday, that we talked about last week, happened Sunday. You sort of got the impression that, okay, well, things will just smooth out now. And it's quite the opposite that happened. So I wonder whether that was a success, a failure, or too soon now to determine.
Heard nothing on Sunday that gave me the impression that things would just smooth themselves out. No one seemed to change his or her position. I think the government of British Columbia, and that was clear on Sunday, is going to be asking for advice from its top court on what its place in the scheme of things is. And not only because they're so curious about the answer, but because that is the exit strategy for John Horgan's government, to get an answer from the court. And if the answer is no, then we've done everything that we could in the legal realm and we're walking away. So no matter what the federal government does, I suspect that at some point some court is going to have, if not the decisive say, at least a really important say in whether we walk away from this crisis and move on.
So this has to go to court, Andrew, or there's no political resolution possible for this?
I think it's a combination. Yeah, if you looked at it right now, you'd say we're in court up to our ears. We've got about 7 different court cases or legislation that's coming forward that will be challenged in court from the various players in this. I do think what you started to see emerge is the outlines of a federal strategy that I think makes some sense, which is laying down legislation that, yes, itself could be challenged in court, but that puts some definition to the issues involved, gives some guidance to the courts about where the federal government, it sort of removes some of the ambiguity that BC, if it was a mind to, could kind of get in and try and wiggle around in legally. So I think that's part of the puzzle. I think to buy time and to allow the process to work through, I think a financial backstop for Kinder Morgan also made sense. I think offering something additional to BC in the way of environmental insurance was part of the mix. So whether or not that strategy is going to work is going to depend a lot about what the details of that are, what that legislation looks like, what the backstop looks like, et cetera. But the broad outlines of it, I think, are encouraging.
Last point to you on that, Chris. Do you think that there is more to come then from the federal government on this play to try and convince this to happen?
Well, I think almost certainly. The one thing I don't expect is that the federal government will in any way lend its support to any kind of reference case to allow BC to establish whether it has jurisdiction over the coast to do different types of things or to limit the flow of bitumen through the pipe once it's inside British Columbia. This is, after all, a political problem, as I said, and if politics is the art of compromise, all three of these leaders are playing a different game than I've seen. Nobody seems willing to do that, and maybe, as a result, the courts in British Columbia in this case will have to have the final say, because even Andrew Weaver, the Green Party leader in British Columbia, whose support keeps John Horgan in power, has said that if the courts rule against British Columbia and say they don't have the jurisdiction to protect the coastline or to do anything further or to demand anything further from Kinder Morgan and building Trans Mountain expansion, then he'd be satisfied with that. That's the end of it. So in the end, that really is almost, as far as I can tell now, the only way out of it.
Okay, I want to do one go-round on where Chris is. So, Chris, you can start. This is the Liberal Policy Convention. This is presumably where they have to come up with some ideas for the next election. So it starts to beg the question, how far are they in achieving their agenda from the last one? Do they have ideas to put on the table? What would get them reelected? What part of that do you want to tackle, Chris?
Well, first of all, they have a lot of stuff that is not yet completed, from the innovation strategy to some of the other things they're doing around superclusters. Infrastructure spending money hasn't been put out yet. I looked and talked to a lot of people here from all parts of the country who are diehard Liberals, and every one of them is talking about change. We had change in 2015. We have to believe that change continues into the next election campaign in order to convince people that we're deserving of another term. So a lot of the big ideas that people are tossing around here, the idea of a universal drug care plan, pharmacare, they're looking at a pilot project or some kind of study into a guaranteed basic annual income, mental health being added to Medicare and into the Canada Health Act. They're looking for those kinds of ideas to galvanize the progressive vote once again, to make sure that they keep the NDP from keeping or gaining any ground in Liberal areas or to holding on to seats that they already have. All of it designed to try and tell people change isn't done yet. Stick with us for another 4 years. There is more change coming.
Is that what they have to be able to pull out of this, Chantal, this weekend?
I think the delegates will find this a bit less exciting than the previous convention, in the sense that the government in power cannot just wipe off everything that's in progress and say, oh, we're the new guys and here are our bright ideas. I think you're going to hear a lot about pharmacare. And that's clearly what they've been trying to set up as a defining promise. It happens to be one that's central to the NDP. But I don't think this weekend is the test of how they go in the next election, frankly.
Andrew.
I'd be surprised if the election platform they run on even resembles what happens at this convention. That's partly, I mean, that's true of most parties at most times, but that's particularly true because the Liberal Party as such hardly exists anymore. In terms of meaningful distinctions, for example, between members and non-members. To go to this convention, you don't have to be elected, you just show up. To vote for the party leader, you didn't even have to be a party member. It's so centralized now in the office of the leader, more even than most parties, that they will decide ultimately what they want to run on. But the other point, of course, is, you know, every time they unveil a promise in the next election campaign, I suspect what you're going to be hearing back is, you mean just like electoral reform? You mean like balanced budgets? You mean like these other things that you promised last time? I think they're going to have real credibility issues with what they're able to come forward with in this coming campaign.
Well, and that's why, Chris, probably over the weekend you will hear all the things that they have started or finished and need to continue with. That's probably the message out of the weekend.
You bet. In the first speeches that we heard tonight from Mark Garneau and Scott Bryson, both cabinet ministers, we heard about the middle class again. Haven't heard a lot of talk about the middle class of late. We heard about the Canada Child Benefit and what a big difference it made. There is a sense, from what both Chantal and Andrew have said, that they understand that they haven't done all the things on their platform from 2015. By the other side, they realize that it can't rest on their laurels, that people are still looking for that progressive voice. And yes, climate change isn't finished. There are so many different things they can actually look back and say, well, you know, we still have some work to do. So to go back to that main point I was trying to put up for is that change isn't done. There's still more change to do. And if we can add something big to galvanize people's votes around that, or at least their conversation around that, that would be a good thing.
governing is hard. Okay, thanks everybody, appreciate it. Good news for all of you who love politics as much as we do. At Issue is also a podcast. You get extra content and of course the main panel in podcast form every week. If you want to work out, walk the dog, listen to us. This week's bonus topic, the Ontario provincial election. It's getting ugly already. Our win and Ford, Clinton and Trump 2.0. Look for it on iTunes, any major podcast app, and our website, cbcnews.ca/The National.
And still ahead on The National, shaking hands with royalty thanks to a 3D printer and a desire to help others. Thomas Dagla has the story of a young Canadian innovator honored by the Queen. At 26, Canadian Medea Sheikh Hassan has accomplished more than most people twice her age, bettering the lives of refugees by making prosthetic limbs for less than the cost of a large pizza. She's one of a remarkable group of young people honored by the Queen this week. Thomas Dagla caught up with her.
Meeting Britain's golden couple would be a highlight for many, but Medea Sheikh Hassan's own accomplishments far outweigh this. Look closely. She holds the achievement that led her all the way here. And this is where it started. A 3D printer in Ottawa combined with a little ingenuity from a Syrian Canadian driven to help refugees.
Since our helping hand, we figured out that there's really large demand for, prosthetics, but there's not enough suppliers, there's not enough individuals who are doing anything to solve the problem. Someone were to hold an object.
So, with the team at the University of Ottawa, where she studies chemical engineering, Sheikh Hassan found a way to design and produce more cost-effective prosthetics. 3D printed limbs that bend and move, destined for refugees fleeing violence. Inspiring even her professor.
She has a very strong entrepreneurial mindset. So in whatever she does, she's thinking out of the box.
That thinking put her on a global stage this week at 26 years old, showing the Commonwealth Youth Summit that big ideas don't always mean big budgets, and using that prosthetic hand as proof.
Can you guess how much this costs? It costs actually $20 with material and time and everything else.
Today, somewhere in that exclusive crowd at Buckingham Palace, she got to hear the Queen honor her and others as young leaders in front of world leaders.
I'm glad to see that young people connecting through technology are becoming ever more involved.
I think it's really powerful to see that someone who have been in her position, have seen so many things in life, to say that we're the leaders of today. So I felt very proud of myself.
For some, it would be the accomplishment of a lifetime. For her, it's likely just a start. Thomas Dagler, CBC News, London.
Two other Canadians are also being recognized by the Queen. They weren't in London today, but they too have remarkable stories. Aditya Mohan is just 21 years old, but he's already had an impressive career. He started working in a lab at 15, studying chronic diseases like HIV. And by the time he finished high school, he was doing high-level research.
So what I did in this project is I modified DNA and created a new mechanism for viruses to effectively target cancer cells.
For that, he won a prestigious biotechnology competition. Today, Mohan is a pre-med student at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore. He says being recognized by the Queen is a huge honor.
If anything, it just motivates me to continue to do what I've been doing.
Ishita Agrawal is the other Canadian honoree. We couldn't reach her today, but she is being recognized for her work with women. She founded a nonprofit that offers prenatal classes to low-income and homeless women, and she helped launch a program that connects sexual assault survivors with health services. Canadian weightlifter Christine Girard can finally call herself an Olympic champion. The International Olympic Committee made it official today, confirming that the two athletes who finished ahead of Girard tested positive for doping. We asked her how it feels to win gold 6 years after the London Olympic Games in 2012.
I cannot wait to have that gold medal in my hand. I was really excited when I learned the news today. Those medal means more to me now than it would have what it would have meant 6 years and 10 years ago. I think it's a victory for our country, our values as Canadian, because we believe in true sport, and I think it means I think it have a stronger message now than it would have been before. I also hope that my story can help the fight against doping. I want to be a strong advocate of clean sport, and I really hope that those medals will bring more power to my message now.
Within 5 minutes of meeting her, I was like, this dog's going to be mine.
The barbers at the time didn't know how to cut my hair. I can feel it now.
I've been chasing this dream for so long in my life.
I made the team.
That's my baby!
You can do whatever you want as long as it makes you happy.
It was love at first bite. I said bite, right?
I am a senior pastor, and suddenly I realized I don't believe any of this.
So what do you do if you're still a minister, but you don't believe in God?
Losing Our Religion, Friday at 8 on Documentary Channel.
Without probable cause and no identified suspect, the Carver County Attorney's Office cannot file any criminal charges involving the death of Prince.
2 years after the singer Prince died of a fentanyl overdose, a Minnesota prosecutor has ruled out the possibility of holding anyone criminally responsible. Investigators don't know where the pills Prince took came from. They say there was no sinister motive and no evidence anyone knew he was taking anything but a common painkiller. In Berlin tonight, officials are preparing for a major evacuation after an unexploded bomb from the Second World War was found. Starting at 9 a.m. tomorrow, an area that includes the capital's main train station will be cleared of people, and a squad will move in to defuse that bomb, which, by the way, weighs more than 1,000 pounds. It was found during construction work near the train station. And at the Commonwealth Summit today, the Queen set out her wishes for who should succeed her as the head of the Commonwealth.
It is my sincere wish that the Commonwealth will continue to offer stability and continuity for future generations, and will decide that one day the Prince of Wales should carry on the important work started by my father in 1949.
The Queen would like for her son, Prince Charles, to take on the job, but the role is not hereditary. The decision ultimately rests with the leaders of Commonwealth nations. It's expected they'll discuss the issue of succession tomorrow.
High school graduations are just around the corner, a rite of passage for most young Canadians. But imagine how it would feel to be the first in your remote community to go directly to college or university. That's what 3 excited teens in the Northwest Territories are gearing up for. In the tiny community of Uluhoktok, population 400, Mackenzie Scott explains what has changed to make this possible.
I'm actually surprised right now.
We're graduating.
In the isolated community of Uluhoktok, 3 students are making history. For the first time, going straight from high school to college and university without having to upgrade their credits somewhere else. Jacob Klingenberg dreams of being an RCMP officer.
I just thought I was going to stay in the community, hunt, fish. I never imagined I would be have been accepted into a recognized college. So that was amazing for me to experience.
A week and a half.
Nadine Gunnerlook says she loves the culture and closeness of her remote flying community of 400 people, but she also wants to experience the world.
I don't really know what to expect from myself, but I really want to go to just get out of here. And because, it's just too small here, and there's not really much opportunities that you can take as a student or jobs here.
The school can offer all the classes students required for post-secondary qualification.
Is everything A-okay?
But thanks to technology, all that's changed through the Northern Distance Learning Program. Students in Uluhoktok connect with their teacher, who is more than 600 kilometers away in Nunavik via video conferencing.
We feel this is a very important way to offer that equity
for all the students who may not get these courses where they are currently living. And the growth that we've seen since grade 10 till now when they're graduating is just, it's huge.
Matt Goniuk is excited to head to Vancouver Island University in the fall and hopes others follow in his footsteps.
It's pretty amazing to me to see how far we've come along as a school and as a community, and I'm pretty darn excited for this.
The program is currently offered to 7 communities in the Northwest Territories, but will expand to 11 next school year, opening the door for even more young people to pursue their dreams. Mackenzie Scott, CBC News, Uluhaktok.
Now, of the Northwest Territories, total population of some 42,000, roughly a quarter, or about 11,000, are Indigenous youth under the age of 25. But Indigenous high school graduation rates there are pretty low, partly, of course, because of this lack of access to high schools. Just another reason that programs like this one are so important.
The BBC is warning its viewers about a fake newscast that's circulating online. The fictional video includes claims that Russia and NATO forces are at war. This video was originally posted on YouTube and has been widely shared online. The BBC has even published an article warning people about it and what to watch out for so you don't get duped. And this unsettling fake is our moment of the day.
We have breaking news of a serious incident between Russian and NATO forces near the coast of Latvia. Early reports indicate that a Russian surveillance aircraft was fired upon by naval vessels of NATO forces operating in that region. And we do now have footage of the conflict from the region. This is the scene of Russian warships based directly off the coast of Finland. We've just had more breaking news that thermonuclear bombs of undetermined strength have exploded at NATO regional military headquarters in Brussels.
Yeah, that would be troubling. The company that put this up, Benchmarking Assessment Groups, they did say that it was fiction when they uploaded it, but it sort of spiraled out of control, it got circulated, and the fact that it was a fake didn't end up everywhere.
Yeah, circulated without that disclaimer that it was indeed fake. And so understandably, the BBC has wanted to clear things up. They've tweeted that this is #fake news, which I suppose once upon a time was how that hashtag was predominantly used, right?
It sounds like a very modern problem, right? Fake news, something we hear about a lot now, and technology spreads it so quickly. But watching that, I can't help but think about War of the Worlds, right? That radio broadcast from decades ago, even before I was born, guys, and created the same kind of panic. So I guess, you know, the lesson is that you just have to be careful about what you watch and listen to and be able to distinguish real from fake.
Just watch the CBC all day long. That's the other option. Okay, that's the National for Thursday, April 19th. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Good night.